Y community, I appreciate you joining. Want to make sure, can you all hear me all right?
Yes.
Sure can.
All right, great. Glad to hear it. Well, again, thank you so much for joining. You know, I was thinking about this week, you know, what I wanted my personal scope and goal for this webinar to be. And I know that there are Ys of various different sizes here. Some are much smaller, some are much larger, and have agencies and large marketing teams. And so I thought it was really important, you know, as a personal goal, to find a way to ensure that everybody takes something home that's meaningful and that they can utilize based on the size of their organization and their specific needs. So very, very excited about that. In general, what I've tried to target is what I see the primary need for Ys in hiring to be right now. And that's a younger demographic, that's seasonal hiring. I feel like every single Y I've talked to needs lifeguards, and there's just that ongoing struggle. And I know that never ends, right? You know, summer is just the beginning. You need it again in the fall. So in general, these tactics gear around entry level. But there's a couple of instances where for a more senior position, you can utilize some of these methods as well. And I'll kind of touch on those. But tell you a little bit about ourselves. I'm James Molk. I'm the founder and creative director of Sup Effects Studios. For 15 years, I've been in marketing and design and website development. And we've worked with companies to solve problems for about 7 years now. That's been YMCAs. And whenever everything hit with the pandemic, it was a little bit of, you know, scratching our heads, trying to figure out what we're going to do. You know, what is, you know, the old days of what is the new normal. And pretty early on, we started to see that hiring, as we started to get out of this, hiring was going to be a big issue. And so not just with YMCAs, but with other nonprofits and for-profit organizations we work with, we've had a chance to try a lot of things. And in the beginning, not everything worked. But what I'm going to share with you is the things that we have found that do work. And of course, as an agency, we love numbers. At least I do personally. I'm a big fan of stats and metrics. And so I'm going to start by sharing some of those with you. And I think it kind of lays the groundwork for where we're at and why social is now so effective for hiring, whereas it may not have been quite as effective pre-pandemic, you know, going back just a few years. Oops. So notable hiring stats for the YMCAs that we currently work with, we're seeing that about 70% of the traffic is mobile. And this is across, you know, Google organic search, paid ads, social. 70% of it is going to be mobile. Now, obviously, when it comes to social, you tend to see that being a lot higher. When we run campaigns like this, we generally tend to see a threefold increase, although this can be much higher and much lower depending on the position and how specific you're looking. If you're looking for one, you know, like we need a daytime shift, childcare, is not going to get as many as a summer hiring campaign that is targeting multiple positions throughout the summer. But in general, we do expect to see a very notable increase. And back to mobile, in 2019, 51%, and this is from AppCast, 51% of job applications were completed using a smartphone. By 2021, it had rose to 67%. And so what is really interesting about this, or what I find to be most interesting, is that we have reached a period of time where people are more than ever willing to fill out that job application using their phone. So social, which we know is very heavy when it comes to mobile usage. Now, whereas before with pre-pandemic, people weren't really going to come from the social platform and fill out that job application. We're seeing that they are doing that now. And I was just told I need to share my screen. Give me 1 second here, guys. I apologize. There we go. All right. So I was seeing it, but you weren't. And there's those stats. Yeah, so mobile is very important right now. And again, we'll be touching on that more as we move forward. So these hiring campaigns that we run, we don't just run it for other companies. our most recent marketing specialist was hired using social media. So we know it works. We use it. It's a very effective tool for all types of organizations. All right, so when you guys registered, we had the question, what is the highest need that you have in hiring at this point? And I thought this would be kind of fun to share. If we ever do this again, I think I might have a few questions because I think it helps for Ys to understand where other Ys are at and what their needs are. I don't think this comes as too much of a shock though. Lifeguards are a big deal and they are forever in need. Childcare follows that up, and summer camp counselors. Now, I'm sure that there's some other things in there like, recreation staff and other specific hiring needs, especially when you get into higher seniority. But this is kind of a good basis point for where we're at today. And the collateral and the techniques we're going to be sharing specifically target these types of positions. So the most effective social channels that we have found, obviously Facebook, job posts. I don't know if you are using those at this point. If you're not, I highly recommend it. We find this to be the most effective channel per dollar spent. And then you follow that up with Facebook and Instagram paid ads using the ads manager. And I'll kind of jump into what the ads manager is and how to use it to ensure that you're following the ads policies of Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, because there are quite a few whenever it comes to hiring. For example, whenever you run a paid ad, and I know, by the way, some of these larger organizations, I may be mentioning things that you already know, but for other organizations, you may not understand this. When it comes to paid ads, you can't target by age. So TikTok really kind of fit into that because in general, it's a younger age group. So since we can't go on Facebook and say, let's just target people age 18 to 25, we can instead go on TikTok and know that although it's not just going to be 18 to 25, it is going to be a much younger demographic. So we use that pretty heavy. If TikTok sounds intimidating to you, if you don't have a TikTok channel, don't worry, you don't need one. The ads manager runs completely independent of a TikTok channel and allows you to still do all the branding that goes along with that. The last part of this is going to be your custom landing page. So we talked about how important mobile was, and for most organizations, you're going to be using something like Paycor or some other sort of job application management software. And although this is extremely effective for your organization internally, to manage what jobs are being filled, managing applications. That home page that you generally embed on your website often isn't the most mobile friendly, can be intimidating, especially to an entry level position. And oftentimes that job application can be very intimidating as well. So we like to create a landing page that is specifically geared towards the job or jobs that we're promoting. And that way we kind of have a first soft impression of the why of the brand. And then we have a link where they can go and fill out that specific job application. And I will show you an example of that later on, one that we created. On that note, as we push forward, tomorrow I'm going to be posting the recording of this, as well as all the social collateral that we created that will be available to you free. We'll have some examples of custom landing pages. There'll be some links in there. I'm going to get into UTM codes a little bit. I don't want to dive too deep and make this too complicated, but kind of explain why we use them and then show you how you can utilize that yourself briefly. But all that will become available tomorrow. We'll send out another email and you'll have all of that information. If you have any questions or need anything specific, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Okay, so Facebook job posts. I'm going to kind of be jumping back and forth from my PowerPoint here and actually sharing my screen and some of the browsers that I have, some of the browser windows that I have that explain this. So if you don't know, and if you do, that's all right. Maybe you can pick something up. Whenever you go to your Facebook page, there's these tabs across the top. If it's not there, you can click down, you can click more, and there's a jobs tab. Jobs from within here, you are able to create a job, put in the job title, add an image, add a description. We like to keep the description fun and light, especially for entry-level positions. Adding the salary, the payment, we kind of, in general, we see better performance when you don't have that. I feel like it's kind of important to address that. So when you run it and you say we're going to pay $11 to $15 for a lifeguard, but you've got the local country club that's going to pay 17 or 18. By not putting it in there, you get an opportunity to get in front of that individual, introduce them to who you are, the Y brand, and otherwise you would have missed it. So it's really up to you, but we generally don't include that. I do recommend having a image that represents the job, not just something that says the YMCA. For lifeguarding, have lifeguards. For summer camp, have kids or camp counselors, something along those lines. And then a last little tip with this, you have to be a page manager in order to do this. If you aren't, you won't have this option. But if you go to more and you click edit tabs, you can bring that jobs tab from the drop down, you can move it up. So I think that Ys are always hiring, so there's probably pretty good reason, pretty good case to have that jobs tab be in the top 4 or 5 so that it shows on your homepage. A little tip there. With the Facebook and Instagram campaigns, we have started targeting this because it reaches a large age group. So the reason that this ends up being so effective, people say, well, we're trying to target 18 to 25. Facebook is targeting, an older demographic. Facebook is still the #1 social media platform in the world. It's very effective. And on top of that, when you get in front of the parents, you get in front of the grandparents, these posts get shared. It becomes, we have found that even though we're not reaching the exact target demographic, we still end up getting the results out of it. We're seeing about 50 cents per click out of our ad campaign. So if you're going to spend about 200, estimate that 400 clicks, although in some cases we're seeing around 25 to 30 cents a click. So it really just depends on the video and image collateral that you're using, and then also the job that you're promoting. So there's a lot that can go into that. If you're seeing above $1, either you're targeting something that is very specific, or your collateral, it probably just isn't resonating, or the time of year from a seasonality standpoint, you may just have a struggle filling that position. But those are kind of general metrics. We want to see ourselves around 50 cents per click. TikTok ad campaigns, again, this is our younger demographic, and since we can't pick the age group that we want to get in front of, TikTok ad campaigns allow us to do that. And again, you don't have to have a TikTok channel. You can go ahead and start an ad campaign very easily. And I will show you just kind of a couple of tips that I use when I set these up. But same thing, we're seeing about 50 cents a click. I've seen as low as 40 in the TikTok, but in general, it doesn't go up too high. So kind of a steady ad campaign cost there. And it's, I use some arbitrary numbers, spend examples of 250 being 500 for, it really depends on the size of your market. I know that we had some people from Cleveland and Toledo register to be here, larger markets, this number is going to go up. Your smaller markets, you can get away with a lot less. And depending on your budget, I would say in general, Facebook job post is going to be first and foremost. And then depending on the specific jobs that you're trying to hire, you can look into Facebook and Instagram, followed by TikTok. But one of the biggest struggles with this is getting the collateral and having effective collateral, especially on the video side. And so we want to provide some of that so you have something to jump off from. So let me jump into those campaign setups real quick. And I just kind of show you a couple tricks. Both, I guess they're more tips than tricks, both for Facebook and for TikTok. So with Facebook, when you create a new campaign, and by the way, if you're not familiar with the business suite, if you're not using that, I know some smaller Ys will just boost posts. There's nothing wrong with boosting posts. We like using Ads Manager for a couple of reasons. It allows us to pick and choose where our ad shows up on Instagram and Facebook, as well as kind of creates a barrier between your page and your ads. And anybody who's tried to do any advertising in Facebook knows that the ads get denied and that they can have a negative impact. So like just keeping that separated from your page, we find that if there ends up being some sort of, ongoing incident or issue with your ad campaign, they're going to shut down the ad campaign, but your page is going to be fine. But setting it up appropriately in the beginning can save you a lot of trouble. So when you create a new campaign, you have categories. This is on the first page. You need to make sure that special ad categories are selected. And by doing that, it's going to make sure that you can't target in a way that is against their guidelines. So age and other demographics. So that's the best way to start. There's really not much else to show in here. It's all pretty straightforward. If anybody has any questions about how to set these up, I'd be happy to point you in the right direction, or you can work with us to do that. But in general, it's pretty straightforward. And I know that a lot of the attendees here today are quite familiar with this. With TikTok advertising, there's a couple things that we do. Campaign level, same thing. You want to make sure that you select the special ad category, in this case, employment. And the other thing that I recommend when setting up a TikTok ad campaign, underneath advanced settings in the ad group, there's an option to turn off user comments. A lot of trolls out there. There's a lot of really negative response that we've seen. And rather than trying to manage that on a daily basis, again, if you have a TikTok channel and you're active on it, you might have people in place to do that, and that's fine. But if you don't, and you don't want to worry about negative comments and just run it like an ad campaign, you're going to turn the user comments off. By default, it is on. So you actually have to come in here and turn it off. It'll recommend that you keep it on naturally. Obviously, the most important part of an ad campaign, let me get back into my PowerPoint here, is going to be the visuals. We have a very, very strict approach to our visual collateral. In other words, it's what we found works really well, and that's vivid imagery, limited words. In general, we like to say no more than 3 words in a Y logo. And that's not always possible, but at times it's possible to just have 1 word, and we'll actually show you some of those. And remember, with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you can always add above and below or different places on the collateral. There's a place to put in a headline and put in some text, but on the image itself that you're using, you want that image or that video to really speak for itself and resonate with the viewer. That's what's going to get the click. Video dominates, but not always. So in general, a video collateral performs better than our static image collateral, but we've had some static image collateral perform just as well as our video collateral. So in general, we do both. The other advantage to having some static along with video is that there are some places that you can put static where video wouldn't really fit, especially on the Facebook side. And then local imagery is awesome. I know that. I know some organizations do this better than others. Associations do this better than others. If you have a bunch of your own footage, that's great. A bunch of your own images, that's great. You can utilize that and utilize our approach to visual collateral. But if you don't, stock photos work really well. We don't see a significant difference in campaign performance based on stock photos and local. Obviously, local represents your brand, your why, who you are. And when possible, you want to use that. But if you can't, and that's not in the cards, I don't want that to be a deterrent to move forward because stock imagery really does work well. Okay, so here's a couple of ad examples that we have. In this case, you can see camp counselors, the image speaks for itself. Same thing, summer jobs. And, we specifically put summer jobs and not lifeguarding because oftentimes the same person that could be a lifeguard could be a camp counselor, could work in the rec center. So we have found that if we launch a campaign that's more broad, we kind of get a chance to catch, we're casting a bigger net. And we found that to be more effective. But moving on, camp counselors again, then we have one for volunteer, but as you can see, we wrote volunteer, but that could easily be childcare or teachers. It really just depends on what it is you're looking for. But same thing, vivid imagery, the image should speak for itself. You wouldn't necessarily need to have any words on this, and you would hope that it would catch the attention of the desired candidates. This is from YUSA. This is an example of something that you could use on your Facebook job posts. Effective. There's tons of collateral out there, but this obviously resonates with the younger age group. You know, you can tell that it's a camp counselor. The image speaks for itself. All right, then we got a few videos. We put these together. We have a few others, and we'll have all these up tomorrow. But you'll see kind of the same theme. Where, yeah, there's some words on there, but the idea is to have the image speaking for itself. And in this case, we said great jobs. Oftentimes, even if you're looking for childcare, saying great jobs is all you need with this type of video collateral. You know, this is going to be on Instagram. It's going to be on TikTok. But if you want to say childcare or teachers needed or whatever that verbiage is that you have for your why, that would be just as effective. So obviously this is geared towards lifeguarding. That's the imagery. But again, we said summer hiring because we didn't want to pigeonhole the ad to only be lifeguarding. If somebody didn't want to be a lifeguard, but they're still looking for a summer job. And again, for that 18-year-old, it's a summer job they're looking for. They may not know what they want to do. So we try to be as broad as we can. Camp counselors, same thing. Great jobs at the YMCA. The last part here is the landing page. And as promised, I'll show you what we have set up as a landing page for one of our Ys. This is the YMCA of Youngstown. So this is the landing page that we created. The embedded, in this case, Paycor, although it is very effective and provides a lot of insight and data to the association. For an entry-level position, this can be intimidating, and so can the application. And so, with the Facebook job post specifically, there's an application involved there that's much more rudimentary, but it does generate leads. And we found that by reaching out to them, just via chat, and then asking them to fill out this form, a more in-depth application is very effective. But what we want to do is send that individual, especially from an entry-level position, here. And this is all focused on mobile. So when we break this down, it still looks great. It looks fun. It looks young. And then we have that apply today. In this case, we have it go to Paycor where the open positions are available. I've even seen a Y that just had a summer jobs position on their employment application software. And so instead of it saying, lifeguards or swim lesson instructor, it said summer jobs, and it just kind of explained a few. And they had a lot of success with that. So that's another idea that you could utilize. All right. I was told earlier when I ran through this that I went a little long. So I made a point to be concise, but I don't want to hold back. If there are any specific questions that you have, I'm happy to deep dive and answer them for you. So I'll go ahead and open the floor up. If somebody has a question, you're welcome to send it via the chat or turn your speaker off and just ask it.
Hello, my name is Noelle. I'm calling from the YMCA of Greater Cleveland, and I wanted to know if you could make a recommendation on the layout of jobs as they appear on career pages. I heard you when you said that the layout of the jobs on the screen you just displayed can be a little bit overwhelming. Do you have any recommendations for layouts of jobs at all to make things a little easier, less intimidating?
Well, I think it depends on the software that you're using. Some are going to have more functionality as far as, more choices as far as layout than others are going to. When it comes to like Paycor, there really isn't a whole lot. And that's kind of why we recommend, creating like a summer jobs if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for a graphic designer, that's just going to have to be down in the graphic design position. And by the way, this isn't bad even on mobile, right? It's just not, our primary concentration at this point is entry level. That's the ongoing need is generally that. So we just like to have a page that on desktop is left to right, just kind of has a nice layout, text on the left, image on the right, text on the right, image on the left, and then takes them to that more advanced page. I don't know if that fully answers your question.
It helped. It helped. Thank you.
Okay. Look here, chat. When you're formatting videos, do you make them all portrait orientation or can be used across platforms, or do you adjust depending on the platform? I adjust, and we'll actually include some of those tomorrow. But obviously the portrait orientation for TikTok is necessary. And then some of the specific placements on Facebook and Instagram require that portrait. And other cases, it's going to require the, the horizontal, the landscape. So it really just depends. If you have the bandwidth and the resources to create one that is horizontal and one that's vertical, great. If not, you may just have to pick one or the other depending on the demographic you're trying to get in front of. Obviously, everything is kind of leading more towards mobile as we're seeing with those stats. But as much as you can do to create both, the better. But I know that's not always possible. Let me see here.
I have a quick question. This is
Sure.
Tracy in Atlanta. We are familiar with Ads Manager and we use social media ads on Facebook and Instagram, but we haven't done any ads on TikTok yet. You showed Ads Manager. Can you show us a little bit about how you do ad placement on TikTok?
Yeah, let me go ahead and share my screen again here. So it is shockingly similar to Facebook. Let me kind of, I'll back out. This is kind of a dummy campaign, a dummy account here, but it's set up in the same way where it's campaign, ad group, and ads. And we find that in general, it's the placement of targeting still going to be in the ad group. Ads is where ads. Now, there is something interesting with the ads because there's a lot you can do with ads within TikTok that you can't do. You can actually add different effects and stickers and that on your ads, which we recommend doing when you can. Have fun with it. Again, consider your demographic. But just like you would in Facebook, you would click create. And as I mentioned before, we will start over. Let's do traffic category. We'll make sure that they know this is employment. If you don't do this, it will get denied. Your ads will be stopped and you have to go back through the process. So it can just add some time to getting your campaign started. And then, naming your ad group. In this case, we're going to a website. One thing that I wanted to touch on is UTM codes, and you may or may not be familiar with them, but I'll do that on the next page here. What you want to do, they have, so one of the interesting things about TikTok is they make you spend, it says, you can see here, it's at least 20. You've got to spend the $20 a day. So these campaigns, maybe you won't run them all month, but you do have to spend the $20 a day. All right, lowest cost, big cap. All right, we'll just kind of push through this quickly. And this is where you would do some of your targeting as well, right? From a geographic standpoint, you're going to select where you want this target to land. You can edit your custom identity here. So this is where you would put the Y logo, and that'll show up over here on the right. This is where you would upload your video. With the link, right here's a URL. We recommend using UTM codes. And if you don't know what UTM codes are, this is Google's UTM code generator. It allows you within Google Analytics to track how a specific campaign is performing. So it's a code that essentially goes to any page, but has a bunch of additional text at the end of it in a specific format. But what that text does To the end user, they just go to the page. They just go to that hiring landing page. To the end user, or I'm sorry, to the manager, to us, what we see in analytics is a specific campaign. So we could see how the traffic from that hiring campaign worked. And you could segment this out. You can just do one hiring campaign link, and it's the same across Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Or you can segment them out by the campaign or by the platform type, or get even more granular than that if you want and go per ad. But in that, you can then look and see how those specifically perform. How many people end up on the page that you want, how many pages per visit and time they spend on the site. So we find this to be very effective, and we use this any chance that we can. Whenever you log in, and of course, this is the Universal Analytics. GA4 is in the pipeline, but in Universal Analytics, you would see a campaign with something like YMCA Summer at the Y. Another place that we use these, to get off topic just a touch, is with print material and QR codes. We throw a UTM code on that, so we can actually see the traffic that scans it with their phones and comes to the website, whereas otherwise you just wouldn't know. And it's not everybody. A lot of people are just going to type it straight in, and that's that. But it at least gives you an idea of how that traffic is performing. So with TikTok, it's the same thing. You go through, whenever you upload this, you have an opportunity to go in the editor. There's all kinds of fun features in there where you can add the stickers, you can overlay sound and effects. So it's a lot of fun. I recommend just creating an ads campaign. If that's the direction you think you're going to go in, and just play around with it. It doesn't take long. You could be making a campaign within 5 minutes. I'm not kidding. It's super easy. So it might take a little time for it to initially get approved, but you can start playing around with that pretty quickly.
Thank you.
Yep. Do any of the social media platforms offer a nonprofit rate? I do not have the answer for that. We obviously handle a lot of Google ad grants, and that's a fantastic nonprofit rate. But I can't say for that. Does anybody else have an answer to that? Have you run into that, a nonprofit rate from social media advertising? Yeah, I'm not familiar. I'll do some research on that after this, Christina, and if I can find any information, I'll definitely pass that along to everybody. That's a good question. Check and see if I've missed any questions. Okay, all right. Well, if there aren't any other questions, come tomorrow, we'll send out another email that I have all this information. It'll all be hosted on our site, so you can download the videos, download what we have. If anybody's interested in working with us, perhaps it's not something from a bandwidth standpoint you can handle, or kind of want our experience brought into it, we're obviously happy to do that. Would love to. We're always available for questions, so there's absolutely no charge to pick my brain. So don't hesitate to email me. And I'll do my best to get the answers for you. But if there's nothing else, I was able to save you guys. Looks like it's 2:34, so you guys have about 25 minutes left in the hour. Thank you so much for coming, and don't hesitate to reach out. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Have a great day.